And there we are. Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's Thursday morning, and it's what is it we call this show? The Spirit World Sees All. There you are. And of course, we know that it does. So this morning, I have to tell you, well, first of all, let me say welcome to my spirit guide, Gregor, who is always by my side. Kachuro's disappeared, but he's here somewhere. Say good morning, Carolyn. I've got Carolyn here. Good morning,
Carolyn.
And Ali's going to he came on, disappeared, and he's going to pop back in a minute. So while we're hanging around, we're not actually waiting for Al. He'll just pop back on when he can. But I was thinking this morning I had a little mild panic because we had an email from Dean, who has made my Christmas cake. Not for me. He's made my recipe with a Christmas cake. However, instead of putting 1.5 to 2 fluid ounces of brandy per week in it, he's been putting 4 ounces. And I had to warn him yesterday that he's going to have a Christmas cake that is so thick and stodgy. It'll taste good, but it'll be more like a pudding than a cake if he's not very careful. He seems to be happy with that. And he was asking, do I have a video where I'm decorating? And all of a sudden, a panic set in because, yes, I forgot to make my marzipan. And usually by now my marzipan is made and it's in the freezer and it's all ready and wrapped, ready for me to take to New York with me so that I can decorate my cake. So what we're going to do is this afternoon, trust me, I'm making my marzipan. And then when I get to New York, I always like to make my Christmas cake with Reese. So we're going to attempt a video. It might be a little bit of a chaotic video, but we're going to attempt to make a video to show you how exactly we decorate our Christmas cake. So get ready for that. All right, that's the cooking side of things is now done, I think. Everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. Everything about this world of ours, we ourselves, everything that you see around you, everything you hear, everything in this universe is about energy. And we have good and positive energy, and we do have some negative energy. And it seems sometimes to us, when we talk about the world and the state of the world as we live in it today, it does seem as if the negative energy is winning out over the positive energy. But I don't believe that. I think if we all strive to be positive, even in the face of adversity, and even when it's hard to be positive, that positive energy will permeate all the way through our lives, into our friends, into our family. It will just touch everyone that we know. Christmas is coming, and it is a time for celebration, and it is a time for most of us to, think about that really good energy, good food, family around us, all the good stuff that we have around us at Christmas time. And I'm already getting excited. But as you all know, because you've been following me, which I'm very grateful for, as you all know, at Thanksgiving, we talked about all of those people who don't perhaps have such a good Christmas. I know there are lots of you who don't celebrate Christmas, but whatever it is you celebrate, and whenever in the year you celebrate, there are lots of people who have no cause for celebration. There are lots of people who cannot afford to celebrate. There are lots of homeless people on the streets, as we know. I'm just going to reach out to you all and ask you if there is some small thing that you can do, either to take a burger or a drink to someone on the street. Or I'm not suggesting that you go and talk to people, because we talked on our Everything is Attitude show about safety first. You can't just go up to strangers and, inveigle your way into their lives. It would be a dangerous thing to do. But there are lots of people who, go to homeless shelters. Go to the homeless shelter, see if you can be one of those volunteers who, dishes the soup out, or if there's something you can do, or go to the nearest children's hospital, volunteers, see if there's something you can do. I know that we all are thinking about our families, and myself, we're thinking about what do we get my grandson for Christmas this year? Of course, he's got everything. He doesn't need a thing, but we're still going to buy him things anyway. That's what we do at this time of year. That's what so many of us do at this time of year. But while you're doing that, if you could just spare a small thought or two, or even 5 or 10, for those people who do not have the same abilities. They do not have, whether it's financial or whether it's that they simply don't have any family to share with. There are lots of reasons why people are on their own, or people can't afford a good Christmas or a good celebration time. If we could just spare a little thought for them, I'd really appreciate it. Paying it forward is great. So try, if you can, just to spare a thought and to bear in mind my words to you and my plea to you to do that. All right, we're going to say good morning, Al. I see you've arrived.
Good morning.
We're talking about Christmas. I forgot to make my marzipan. Wow, the earth trembles. It's such a big event. It's actually a big event in my life, because if I'd have forgotten to make it, I could make it easily at my daughter's, well, not so easily at my daughter's house, but it's so much easier if you have everything prepared. So, Al, are you preparing already for Christmas or not?
We are, as far as the gift buying. We have lights all up over the house, but we are talking about some ways we can give back with the kids, and looking at some options for us that are, like you said, safe for the kids, but fulfilling and worthwhile for whoever we help.
Yeah, I think it could be. I mean, well, I know because I've done it. So I've done this a lot. When you get a group together, it could be a group of neighbors. If you're in an organization, if you belong to an organization, sort of broach the subject, get together with people, take on a family between you all if you can, and if not, just if it's simply that you knock on the door of a lonely neighbor and invite them to come for Christmas dinner or something like that, whatever it is that you choose to do, if you could just choose to do something, that would be really great. And as a family, and teaching your children to do these things, I think is very important for all of us. All right, enough of all of that then. Carolyn.
We've got lots of questions.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to hear it. I do know, actually, Carolyn said to me this morning, we're on competition this morning because it's George Bush. He is the president. Well, once you're president, you're always a president, right? So President George Bush's funeral today. We're very sad not for his family. For him, I'm sure he's having a great time. But I personally never go to funerals. You know that I never go to funerals because I don't see really the point in it. If I do go to a funeral, I can count on the fingers of one hand, my father's being one of them, and still have fingers left over, I have to tell you. I'll do it for the support of the family, but certainly, I'm fully aware, as I'm sitting in a church at a funeral, I'm totally aware that, they're not in the box, so to speak. All right. Why don't we go for our first question then?
All right, Brother Nate.
Morning, Brother Nate.
Recently, you said that the soul is more dense than our physical bodies. Wow.
More solid. Yes.
Okay. Wow, that is mighty heavy, but true. Is there anything more you could expand on about our soul's nature?
Nate, I mean, we could have this conversation every morning for the rest of our lives, and we'd still be talking about the fascination of the soul. So, unless there is a specific question, I'm going to see how the morning goes. But it is a great question, and thank you for it. Let's have our next question.
Paul joins us.
Morning, Paul.
Good morning. How do we call on our guardian angel? Do I even have one?
Good question. Everyone has a guardian angel, I believe, and my understanding is, but just remember, I might seem to be all-knowing and all-seeing, but I'm not. But my understanding of our guardian angel is that we do have our angels who carry us here, make sure that we are safe, make sure we are embedded safely within the womb. We also have our angels who collect together and gather us to their breast as they carry us home. We call that process dying. They would probably call it something entirely different because it's just a continuation of life after life. And we do have our angels, and it's sort of, I don't, for some of us, it may be that you have the same angel all through your life. And I don't really know too much about that, but I do know that there are angels and different angels for different reasons, perhaps with different skills and different skill sets who come into our lives from time to time. But remember, an angel is a being of light, of goodness, doing God's will only. We cannot call upon our angels. You know, you can sit and pray for them for as much as you'd like, but unless God says, okay, off you go, then that angel is going to do God's bidding and God's will. An angel is not there for us so much as an angel is there for God, to do God's work. And if God decides that we need an angel in a particular situation, then an angel will be sent to us. So an angel is a messenger of God and does God's bidding. However, our loved ones in the spirit world, our family, our friends in the spirit world, that's something else again. And we can call upon them, and they do visit us from time to time. And I think that we visit them also in our sleep state, in our dream state, and some of us are lucky enough to see them around us on a regular daily basis, as I do. Al, let's have another question.
We have Melissa here. She asks, my husband and I have started a new business. Do you see all the time an investment being successful? My husband's name is John, so I guess the time they're putting in an investment as being successful. Do you think they will be successful?
Melissa, I love the question, but you're a naughty girl because I don't do that on this show. You're asking me to see into the future for you. I'm asking Grey Eagle. You know, whatever I say to you, honestly, anybody could say to anybody. I could say to you that it will be difficult for a while. You know, this is what I'll say from my own experience. Any business, if it's worked at in the right way, will be successful. But how successful is a whole other thing. And one person's idea of success is a completely different, you know, thing than somebody else's idea of success. I know that there are so many people out there, because I've had it said to me a million times. I'm exaggerating slightly, but not much. Oh, well, you know, it's all right for you. You work for yourself. You don't have a boss. Well, actually, it's not all right for me, because it's tougher. It's harder working for yourself than it is having a boss. A boss can put your feet to the fire. When you work for yourself, it's easy to think, oh, I'll just have another 5 minutes in bed, or I'll just take the day off today. It's easy when things aren't going quite right for you to just, you know, slip off and sort of bury your head in the sand. Working for yourself is a very hard and a very tough thing to do. And the one thing above all else that you have to have, Melissa, is discipline. If you have the discipline, you and your husband, if you have the discipline to work at this, to keep your eyes open, listen to your intuition, and make sure that you go with your gut feelings, there's no reason why this business should not survive. But it is not easy. And anyone out there who's got a job and works for somebody and hates their boss or hates the job, who thinks to themselves, oh, I'd give anything to work for myself, trust me, no, it's not like that at all. Because if you don't have the discipline and you don't make yourself work past all the hours that, you know, a 9 to 5, when you work for yourself, you don't work 9 to 5. I can tell you now, you work a lot harder because of that discipline. You have to work harder because there's only you to rely on, and there's only you to make money for you. So, you know, it's not an easy thing to do in any regard. So I wish you well with your project, Melissa. Grey Eagle, I feel that, you know, if you have that discipline, you and your husband apply that discipline, at least there are two of you. You can, you know, keep each other's feet to the fire, can't you? You know, there have to be consequences when somebody takes a day off for no good reason. Or when, you know, you go to bed, or you want to go to bed, it's 10 o'clock at night, you've worked really hard, but the books need to be done because the tax man's coming in the next couple of days. Not easy at all. But I wish you joy of it. Al, let's have a question. Sorry, go on.
All right, Twiggy Leaf.
Good morning, Twiggy.
She says, I'm nervous to ask this question.
Oh, don't be nervous, darling. I can only say no.
My grandfather passed away over a year ago. My mom had taken it especially hard. A couple of months ago, I bought her tickets to see a medium at an event. I prayed very hard leading up to the event that she would get a message, but she didn't. I know there can be many reasons why a connection might not be made, but I'm wondering if you or Grey Eagle might be able to give me insight as to why the connection wasn't made.
Well, I don't know who you went to see, and it's difficult because you know, everybody thinks that I buy into all of this without question, but I am without a doubt the most skeptical person in the world. The truth of the matter is, and I've done this myself, when you have an audience, whether it's an audience of 20 or whether it's an audience of 200 or 2,000 or whatever it is, you cannot hope to give a message to every single person. So my advice to you would be, you know, if you went to see this person and they were good, you felt that they were good, truthful, reliable, that the messages were real, if you felt that that was good, then you should try and make a, you know, private appointment, because, you know, sort of, it's a little bit like a needle in a haystack sort of thing. When you go and there's a large audience, the chances of you getting a message are, the chances of you getting a personal message is slim. But if the medium was good, you will have, through other people and through listening to that medium give other people messages, you will have found something that was sustainable for you, that helped you. Al, I'm going to bring you in here because you've been to see mediums. You've done what this lady has done. I always, when I do workshops and do this sort of my work in this situation, I always think that there's even when I'm giving a message to one person, that message can be so profound that I feel that it's not just a message for that one person, it's a message for the audience as well. So even though not everybody gets a personal message, I do feel that people do get a message. But then I know you've been places where you thought somebody was good and then it turned out that they weren't good. Do you have anything to say about that you can advise this lovely person?
I would just make sure that you're a lot of times when you go to those things, you're wanting so much to get a message that your clarity of thought is off a little bit, where you're not thinking clearly because you desire to be connected to your loved one so much. And when I went to this one guy that said some things that were accurate, but afterwards I realized that a lot of things weren't accurate. But even me, with my relationship with you, grabbed onto some of those accurate things as far as it being possibly true. But it wasn't.
You want to.
You want to, exactly. So just, I would say caution, to even if you hear it and you get lost in the moment, afterwards really think it through and make sure that what they say is accurate. Is it something, like you said before, that anybody can say? Don't base your decisions on one person. I would say go to you over anyone, not because I know you, because I've seen you in action and I know that you speak the truth, you speak from the heart. I've seen you connect with so many people, and yes, it does give messages. When I was there, just hearing you connecting to others and hearing the truth behind that, I think made me realize when you did give me a message, but how not just the accuracy of my message, but the accuracy of all the messages you gave me confidence to know that what you were saying was true. And you could see that when you look at other people too, right? You could see their faces, you could see their reactions. If they question things, you could see if it's true or not, even observing others.
And I'm also going to say, as I'm listening to you, Al, whether or not, darling, this is your grandfather, I don't know. But Grail has his hand on my shoulder. I have a man standing just in front of me, just to the left of me, who at the end died very suddenly, very quickly. However, he did suffer for quite a while with his breathing, with his, when I say suffer, you know, sort of on and off. So if you were looking, if people could see, it's like I'm looking at Mike Achuro and I can see he's, you know, he's on his way. How long that will take, I don't know. But you can, you know, but you can see when someone is suffering. And I do think that this man did suffer with his health and wasn't good for a while, but it must have seemed to be completely out of the blue when he did pass. And I know that he's connected to you because I have to send lots of love. But my advice to you is, if your mom is devastated by this, find somebody good, find someone who you can trust, and, you know, make an appointment with them. If they are any good, and they don't connect, they don't make a strong connection, they themselves will say, don't pay me. When the first thing I say to people when I talk to them, if this works, that's great, you can pay me, that's great, I like that a lot. But if it doesn't work, I'll give you an opportunity. You can either try this again, or we'll send you a check right back. And we say this every time, right, Carolyn? We do. There's no question of taking the money without, you know, if I went to the store and I bought a cake and it was sour and I wanted sweet, I'd take it back and I'd have my money back. And that's what you should do. So don't be intimidated by what somebody does. And if it's somebody who's good, they will say to you, if you are not satisfied, if I cannot make a connection, then I will not charge you. Now, a lot of people, a lot of mediums, a lot of psychics will say, well, you're not paying me for what I give you, you're paying me for the time. Well, I've spent hours with somebody and not charged them. If it's not right, don't pay. Be your own advocate in that, and don't be afraid to say, I'm not paying you. And it's the only way that we can get rid of the people who aren't what they say they are. All right, Karen.
Chris has a question.
And I'm also today looking for comments, because I love to hear your comments. So I'd love a comment about that if anybody wants to comment. Yes, Chris. Good morning, Chris.
A woman was stabbed in her car this week as she reached out her window to help a homeless person. You said we don't go before our time. A death in this way. Was there a message being sent to us?
Well, we talked, Al, we talked on Everything is Attitude, didn't we, about this? And it is a safety first issue. It's a tough one. You know, you could say that this person was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't think there is ever a wrong place. I think it's always, I do believe that we can't go before our time. It's a shocking way to go. It's a very sad way to go, because it really puts people off then reaching out and helping others, which I think I've told the story of my friend Mary Lou and I. There was a homeless man at the McDonald's, and we bought him a burger and a soda. And it really does make you think about, you know, doing something like that. If there is any doubt in your mind, please let me assure you, there are a trillion places that you can go that are safe. You can go to a homeless shelter. There are people there running the place. You can go to the Salvation Army and volunteer. You can go to the local children's hospital. You can go to the local children's home. You can go to, in England, we used to call them St. Bernard's children's homes. I don't know if they have them here in the States, but There are lots of places that you can go. You can go to the hospital if you want to help cancer patients. There are trillions of hospices. All you need to do is Google, you know, right? Any
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army are without a doubt the best, and I support them as much as I can because they are brilliant. And I also support St. Jude's, which is a children's hospital. If you are in any doubt, do it safely. I'm asking people to reach out. I'm asking people to give. I'm asking people to think about others. But do it safely, please. And, you know, go to an organization or go to people who are used to doing this, who can help you to stay safe while you're helping others. What an awful, awful world sometimes this is when you reach out to help someone and you seem to be punished for it. But I don't think there is. You know, people say that I had a client whose son was, you know, shot in the head. He was in a crowd of people and the bullet was not meant for him, but it got him anyway. I don't think there is a wrong time or a wrong place. I think we're in the right place at the right time when God decides that it's our time to leave this earth. But that doesn't mean that we should be careless or that we should just go ahead and think, shrug our shoulders, oh, well, it's in God's hands. Well, you know, God is relying on you too to be safe and to keep yourself safe and your children and so on.
I just want to share a giving story.
Carolyn, go ahead.
About a month ago, we had gone to McDonald's for a quick dinner, standing there ordering, and there was a grandmother, an older grandmother, trying to get her order. And if you've gone to McDonald's lately, they're all automated.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
So she was trying to do that. So I had caught a lady that was walking by and said, I'd like to pay for her order. And just the look on surprise on this lady's face, you know. So, and I was explaining to Sammy, it doesn't always have to be the person that looks like they're homeless.
You don't actually have that happened at a McDonald's. Funny enough, advertising McDonald's. Yeah. We went to McDonald's and we went to pay, and the woman said, "Oh, the person in front paid for you." So what we did was, we'll pay for the person behind us. Then you just hope it's not going to be a giant order, don't you? When somebody does that to you. But there are ways to help, and you don't even have to be present in order to do it. Al.
We have a couple of comments from Pamela.
Good morning, Pamela.
She says, funny, but when I'm down, I love to make Irish soda bread. I'm always amazed to see how a simple recipe makes a huge round loaf of bread. And then she says, I wish I could get in touch with a financial angel. Going to be a challenging year that way in 2019. And she also says, past loved ones may visit you in dreams. I think I have experienced this several times in my life.
Well, that's so funny, the soda bread part of it, because I was looking yesterday, I was about to make a soda bread recipe, and I must not have had quite what I needed in the cupboard, because I do tend to look in the cupboard to see what I've got. And so I made a huge quiche instead. And in fact, Al, I was talking to you and I looked in the oven, I'm thinking, why is it not cooking? It wasn't cooking because it was bigger than I usually make. So, and I hadn't left it in not long enough. It was, when it finally came out, it was, just so you know, Al, it was delicious. But I'm sorry to hear about your finances. I think so many of us do struggle throughout our lives with our finances. You just have to, you know, cut back. Instead of putting a pound of butter on a slice of soda bread, just put a little smidgen on. It's not quite the same, but nevertheless, there are ways of us cutting back, and you know, at least you're able to make soda bread. Do we have a question in there, Al?
I don't think there was a question. Albertine has a question, though.
Let's go. Good morning, Albertine.
Rosemary, what is your favorite country?
Well, of course, my home country is my favorite country. The British, I have to say. I could wax on forever. The British, to my way of thinking, have without a doubt the very best sense of humor of any in the world. I know that there are lots of countries with lots of different senses of humor. I have to say that both my daughter and myself have struggled over the years understanding the American sense of humor. Having said that, I know that there are Americans who have struggled to understand the British sense of humor. So it's because, you know, the British sense of humor is so different. To my way of thinking, the British people are a very, very strong race of people. We've had to be. We're in Ireland. We're a little tiny thing in the middle of a big ocean. But we have been conquerors of the world. We have an amazing, if sometimes bloody history. We have our kings and queens, again, a bloody history. But what a fascinating country it is. What an absolutely amazing and fascinating country it is. And I'm very, very proud to be my British self and very, very proud to fly the flag. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, why don't you go back there then and live there and all the rest of it? Well, because, let me think, why don't I? Well, my daughter is here. My grandson is here in America. I say here in America. So I'm not going anywhere unless I'm forced to without them. And I love the beaches of Florida. There are lots of things about my own country that I wish were different. Some I don't like. There are lots of things about America that I wish were different. Some I don't like. I love the Italian people, as crazy as they are. The Greeks are amazing. I mean, I could wax on and on and on and on. And just because I didn't mention your country, listeners, don't think it's because I don't love those places. I love those places to visit. But my own country has given me so much over the years. And I'm very, very grateful to be British. Ow. Was that who asked that question? Was that you, Carol? Oh, well, go on then.
Mary has a question.
Yes, good morning, Mary.
I have 2 children who were born between Easter and Christmas. Was Jesus Christ really born on December 25th?
No. Well, is that it?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I think that when everybody sort of gathered around and wrote that book, and of course we know it was all men, I think they chose a date that was close to. I mean, when a child is born and left on a doorstep, very often the date, the birth date of that person is the date that they were found. I don't think it matters the actual date. I think it just matters that we celebrate. And we pick a day because that day is, for whatever reason they chose the day, that day is as close as we can get to celebrating. And I think it's a great day. And, I think there are so many things that are written in the Bible that were stories that were told to people who were not educated, but these stories were told so that people would understand things. And I think that, when all of those men sat around writing out the Bible, they all had their own opinions. I bet there were loads of arguments going on, because people had differing opinions of how something should be written or what should be put in and what should be left out. There are a series of books called The Lost Books of the Bible. I don't know if you've ever read those. Fascinating they are. You can go on Google and find them, The Lost Books of the Bible. They're amazing. I mean, I don't think it matters when, that Christ was born on the 25th, the 26th, or June 27th. I don't think it matters at all. We choose a day to celebrate, and that's what we do. And that's the day we celebrate the birth of Christ, whether he was born on that day or not. When I have my birthday, just so you're clear, I celebrate all of the week before. It doesn't matter that I was born on the 19th of May. I start celebrating somewhere around the 12th. And if I can, I continue on through the next week. Celebrating is not about the actual day necessarily, it's celebrating the person. Al.
Chris has a comment.
Yeah.
She says, I've seen a few mediums. The messages were shortened or clipped. With Rosemary, I feel as though there's a conversation and a body of information and a wholeness that soothes the questioning on my part.
Oh.
And Twiggy from before says, thanks, Rosemary. Maybe I'll see if she wants to try for a private consultation.
Yeah, just remember, I'm not the only medium in the world. I'm not touting for business here. You just make sure you find a good one, Twiggy, please. Yeah, okay. I was going to say something, but it's just slipped right out of my mind. Do you have a question?
Sharon has another comment on that as well. If a psychic medium only gives generalities, don't ever go back to them. Also, if they fish for you to provide them information.
Quite right. Be skeptical. Be open-minded, but be skeptical. I knew what I was going to say. Some person commented the other day about, well, first of all, they didn't believe it, and then went on to say that spirits don't have conversations anyway. They only tell you in certain short sentences. And I'm thinking, well, you just said you didn't believe it, but now you're telling us that when they do talk to us, they only talk in short sentences. Carolyn, you have sat here and, right, do we just have short, quick sentences?
No.
Or do we have really great conversations?
Yes, it's like when you have a consultation with Rosemary, it's like coming to a friend's house, sitting on her couch, and you have a nice, long, in-depth conversation.
We have a chat without the coffee.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that's what you need to be looking for in somebody that you go to see. You need to be looking for somebody who's able to connect with and to converse with someone in the spirit world. That's what you need to be looking at. Carolyn, question.
TB is asking, I have to ask because I'm confused.
Oh,
are you a medium or ... So she must be a new person.
What am I? I'm also many things. I am a writer. I am, I suppose some might call me a therapist, although don't, because, you know, what I do is therapeutic. It's true, but I'm not nearly as nice as therapists are. I'm not going to sit there and just let you talk to me. I'm going to interject and give you my opinion. So it wouldn't make a good therapist. Basically, this is the truth of it. I talk to dead people who I don't believe are dead at all. I am that conduit, that medium, that conduit that connects this world with the next. So people in the spirit world, people who have died, who have passed into that beyond, into that next world, that next life, are able to use me as a conduit, as a tool, as a medium to get to their loved ones who are still here on this earth. So that's what I do. Now, that's putting it very simply. When I connect with people in the spirit world, very often they are able to talk about things that happened in the past, things that are going on now, and very often they are able to help us and guide us with our future prospects and our future lives. They're able to guide us into, you know, not making mistakes, or if we made a mistake, they're able to guide us into how to get out of those mistakes. Or, you know, as Grey Eagle is reminding me, there are no actual mistakes. We're having experiences, good or bad, negative or positive, and through those we learn. So they're not necessarily mistakes. But does that make it clear? Did I make it clear?
I think so, yes. But you are a lot of things. And a chef maybe too, right?
What?
I said a chef maybe too, right?
Yes, my cookbook is coming today. Yay, we're waiting for the post. We're waiting for the mail to come. Yes, I am many things, but I do workshops, I lecture, but all importantly, I am a healer. And I think that when I talk to people in the spirit world and I'm able to be that conduit, that medium between the spirit world and this earth plane, it is a tremendously healing process. People find healing in so many ways. But I also used to run an organization, a healing organization. So I am a spiritual medium and a healer. That's my official title. I do a laying on of hands. I use my energy. I combine my energy with that God force, with that God energy, which is out there. And I just join with God and give as much as I can. As far as healing is concerned, we don't charge for healing. So if anybody out there is, worried about that, or I do charge for consultations, I have to tell you, you've got to pay my bills just like everybody else. But healing is a whole different thing. We don't charge for healing. And if anybody out there is nervous about, or wanting to know more about it, email me, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com, and we'll give you the rundown. It's simply a question. You give me your name, I put you on the list, and the rest I leave to God. Carolyn, do you have a question? We don't.
Well, we do, but
Al, do you have a question while Carolyn's busy typing?
Sure. We have Noi Noi asks.
Noi Noi.
It says, "Good morning, Miss Rosemary. What I really want to know is when we die, where do we go?"
That's a great question. Put simply, or if only we had several hours to do this show. Put simply, we go to the light, which is God. We go to that place of light, that place of enlightenment. We go to that place where our loved ones are waiting for us. We go to that place within the universe where our loved ones are there and having all of their wonderful experiences, where they're waiting for us with open arms because they know when we're coming. And, different people can go to different places. We don't, we're not all crowded in one little spot. There are people out there who say, well, there are hundreds and thousands, if not millions of people since this world began. It gets a bit crowded up there. Well, use your eyes, use your knowledge, go on Google, do what you want to do, find out that the universe and the many, many universes out there are vast, and our world is the equivalent of a tiny, tiny, tiny grain of sand. So, if the world itself is the equivalent of a tiny grain of sand, we must be like these little teeny, barely seen ants running around on this tiny grain of sand. There's plenty of room for us all. There are lots of places in the universe where we can choose to go. But first of all, we go to the light. If that's where we choose to go, we choose to go to the light which is God, and which is that God force, where we can be centered, where we can be healed, where we can be joined with our family who have gone before us. And then from there, where we choose to go, our choices are vast. Carolyn.
All right, we have got Nicole.
Good morning, Nicole. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm choking here. Yeah.
Is my niece going to have a healthy baby?
Nicole, what do you think I am, a fortune teller here? I do know why you're asking, you're probably nervous about it. I'm asking, Great Eagle, the universe, all I can tell you is the universe has its plan, but I think it might be a good one.
And Pamela asks.
Good morning, Pamela.
Rosemary, were you ever frightened of connecting with the spirit world in the early part of your life?
Oh, you are a newbie, aren't you, darling? I love that question, though. Yes, I tell the story in my book, The Eagle and the Rose. I have to tell you that I lived most of my childhood in a state of being petrified. I am not exaggerating. My grandmother, who died when I was, I think, 6 weeks old, she was a voluntary patient in a psychiatric hospital. She used to hear voices, and so in those days she would put us, when the voices came on too strong and she couldn't deal with them, she would put herself into the hospital. As I was growing up, my mother would threaten me that that's where I would end up. If you're not careful, This is what she would say. If you're not careful, you'll end up in the towers like your grandmother. If you want to check out, again on Google, good old Google, if you want to check on Google or wherever the towers in the city of Leicester in England, you can see it's literally the name suits the building. It's a huge, big old Victorian building with lots of towers and what have you. And that's where my grandmother went. And I do tell the story in the book of how I actually went there when I was 15 years old as a guest, believe it or not, with my school. There are lots of stories about how terrified I was. And of course, growing up, and my parents were not at all sympathetic. I was the weird one. I was the one left out. I was the strange one. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have very weird eyes. When I look at people in a certain way, these eyes can penetrate really well. Can't do anything about it. My grandson has my eyes too, I'm going to tell you, and my daughter. Yes, I was terrified. And read The Eagle and the Rose. That's where I would suggest you start if you want to know more about me. If you want to know how to get the book, email us and we'll send you a copy. Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. We can do that, right?
Nearly done getting it on ebook.
Oh, we're going to get The Eagle and the Rose on ebook. Carolyn's actually typing it up and getting it on ebook. So there we are. Ooh, just think about that then. All right then. Al, question?
We have Myra.
Morning, Myra.
Hello, Rosemary. How do you realize that you were a medium? Because I have serious doubts about if I am. Much love from Argentina.
Miriam, we all of us who are called to this work, we all of us have serious doubts. Again, I'm going to suggest that you read The Eagle and the Rose because it will tell you of my journey, and it does talk about my incredible doubts. And even today, I've been doing this for years, lots and lots of well over 40 years. I know it's hard to believe I'm that old, but it's true. Even now, I don't doubt my ability, but I doubt myself that I'm able to give what somebody needs. I'm always questioning. And when I say what somebody needs, I'm talking about those people in the spirit world. I hope and pray that I'm doing what they want me to do, what I'm supposed to do. I hope and pray that I'm not misinterpreting what they're saying. So I'm very careful about listening carefully. We have a communication where if I make a mistake and I say they've said one thing, they'll shout at me, or Grey Eagle will say to me, no, that's not what they said. And I'm able to correct it. But of course, you always have to question yourself. You always have to question what you're doing. So don't be afraid to question that, darling. You'll be good. But read The Eagle and the Rose. I know that it's really hard for so many people to understand that I am this old. Sorry. Because everybody that I know, certainly at my age and at least 10 or sometimes 20 years younger, is dyeing their hair. We had this the reason I'm laughing about this is we have this, when I said, I've been doing this for all these years, I know it's hard to believe, but I just would like you all to know, is this true or not, Carolyn? Am I telling the truth or not? I do not dye this hair.
No, she does not dye her hair.
Isn't it horrible? Don't you hate me for it?
Is.
I do have to tell you, though, I do have some little bits of grey coming in, like at the front, wispy bits.
Just fairly recently.
Wispy bits here and there, little bits here and there. The last time my daughter cut my hair, she went, oh, Mum, you're going grey. But it's all natural. And I have a friend who in England, Kay, my friend Kay, who I call her Hong Kong Kay because that's where I met her, in Hong Kong. And she's 60, and so she's younger than I am. She's 60, and she doesn't have any grey hair either. We're sort of, I think we're family to the whirling dervishes. That's what I think. Ow. This is getting ridiculous. Do you have a question?
I don't dye my hair either. Just so you know.
You know, I think I knew that about you. I might have been able psychically to be able to tell you that.
maybe it was the gleam from the lights on my head that gave it.
We're doing Jan and Bob on here, and I just wanted to say, Jan, check your Facebooks because we sent you a friend request. So
check your Facebook, Jan. We sent you a friend request.
But she does have a question.
Oh, let's have the question then.
Have you ever come across a spirit on the other side telling a little white lie to protect their loved ones, or do they always tell the truth?
I've never had that happen to me, because if you have to understand, which is hard. I know it's hard to understand. I do have my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is sort of the, he's the one who's in charge, basically. So if anybody in the spirit world wants to say something which is not the truth, he's not going to allow it. It just doesn't happen. I can understand. We do sometimes. I've done it myself. We do tell lies in order to protect someone, to protect somebody's. We don't want to hurt them, to protect their sensitivity and so on. But at the end of the day, it does no good, because even that little white lie can backfire on you, and then you lose a friend, or you lose the trust of someone. So no, but good question though, but no. Al.
Connie asks, I'm not sure what she's asking, but maybe you will. Rosemary, do you have a favorite Christmas reading story that you did? Do you have a favorite Christmas reading story that you did?
I actually do have a favorite Christmas. Well, it's not a Christmas story, but it's a story about a little brown bird, and it's a story that I wrote with Grey Eagle, which I gave as a Christmas gift to my students one year, and I sometimes do give it out. It's a lovely story, and it's written, as I say, inspired by Grey Eagle, and maybe on our Christmas show, maybe on our last Christmas show, I might read it to you. The only problem is it's not a lengthy story, but it's a fairly long, so it might take me 10 minutes to read it. And you'd have to let me know, all of you out there, if you want to hear that story. It's a very inspiring story. And as I say, it was a Christmas gift. I'm not sure, a Christmas story. I used to tell Samantha, of course, about, I'm a singer, so I would always sing my stories. So, I'd sort of sing all the Christmas carols and all of that. I'm going to be hopefully taking Reese to sing some Christmas carols this year, because he's never done it before. So we're going to find a church and sing some Christmas carols this year. I'm going to sing some Christmas carols with him. I hope. But I just love Christmas. I love the magic of Christmas. I love the angels that come about us and come amongst us at Christmas time. And, I feel that our angels are watching us and watching over us, even those of us who are out there on the streets and homeless. I feel the magic touching all of us.
That little message from Brother Nate.
Good morning. Yes, well, we've talked to Nate already. Yes.
He said, "You've been doing mediumship for 40 years. Wow, you certainly are aging well from my view."
Thank you. It's the hair. No dye. It's like, I don't know why it is. My dad was the same, although he died when he was 17. He had more grey in his hair than I do, and I don't really have him. Isn't that amazing? I know there are people out there who won't believe me. I had a really good friend of mine actually say, a few months ago, we were having conversations, and she said to somebody or another, well, she doesn't dye her hair. She said, when she used to tell me that, I didn't believe her until she had her hair cut short, and then I could see that she did. Why wouldn't you believe me when I said I don't dye my hair? All right, let's have another question. Enough about the hair. Thank you, Nate.
We've got Adam from Leicester.
Lester?
Lester? Yeah.
Woo!
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
What do you and/or Great Eagle have to say about those that worry about uncertainty / the future and are in need of knowing that all will work out?
Well, you're from Leicester, my hometown. Somebody just asked earlier which country I favour, which city do I favour? Of course, I favour Leicester and Leicestershire. So, Adam, what do you say to people? It's very tough, isn't it? Because if somebody's going to worry, they're going to worry. There's not a lot you can do about it. But what I would say is I've never, ever known anyone worrying to make one jot of difference to the future. In fact, worrying, I think, makes it worse because it causes us to be even more stressful. I think, let me tell you this little story. Samantha, my daughter, was in the hospital and she was this close to dying at this particular point. When I went in to see her, head was bandaged, she got all these tubes in, she was on a machine, did not look good. It was, it's a horrible thing as a parent when you see your children in this way. I know there are many of you out there who've seen much worse. But there are times when something is so bad, it's so hard, that all you can do is to hand it over. And rather than sit and weep and wail and pray, and I didn't do any of those things. Yes, I know you're saying you didn't pray. No, I didn't. What I did was I did something more than that, which is very hard to do, especially if because this is where your faith is questioned, isn't it? What I did was I went very quiet and I put all my trust in God and put all my trust in the powers that be, and I handed it over. What I do when I'm in a situation like that, whether it's financial, whether it's with people, whether it's illness, or whatever it is, what I do tend to do, it's very hard, not an easy thing to do, but what I do tend to do is I say, you know something, God, this is too big for me. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. I'm going to trust that whatever you decide is the right outcome here, I will accept that. I will accept your benevolence, whatever you give to me. And the only problem then is that having done it and having handed it over, you then have to step back and you can't interfere. Because there's a tendency, as the days go on, well, what if I do this? Or what if I say that? You can't interfere, because when you've handed it over, that means you've taken it off of your own shoulders and you've handed it over to God. And you've handed it over to that God force. And when you can do that, there is such a peace that comes within you, and there's such a harmony that comes within you, because you have taken the burden away from you and handed it to God, and he or she or it, or whatever it is you want to call your God, can handle it far better than you. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I would encourage you to do. It's not an easy thing to do, but worrying and getting yourself in a state and getting anxious it's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help the situation. It's not going to make a jot of difference. The only thing it's going to do is to make you more and more sick within yourself. Wow.
A line from a movie, I think I mentioned, if you worry, you suffer twice, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Deborah asks, hi, Rosemary, do our loved ones relive the experience on the anniversary of their passing? And oddly enough, it's the day my father died today. So odd that she asked that question.
Again, I'm, don't consider this I'm all knowing and all seeing. I'm asking Grey Eagle, but my experience is that no, not usually. It's a time of celebrating. I know that sounds weird, but it's a time of celebrating. And I feel, Al, that your dad is celebrating his, let's say, his rebirth or his continuance of life, and celebrating the experience of, going to the light and finding that there is so much more to us than we ever could possibly see before. So if you are going through an anniversary, I'm going to suggest you have a party for your dad. Get, I know you don't drink, so get out the, whatever it is, soda or the non-alcoholic something or another. Make something great in the kitchen, make a cake or something, but celebrate the passing of your loved ones, because if they do anything at all, I don't believe that they relive necessarily. There are some minor exceptions. I'm thinking now of the rescue work that I have done, but reliving isn't necessarily done on the day of that they died. But that's just the small exceptions. But generally speaking, it's a day of celebrating and celebrating their continuance of the life that is God-given to us.
Got a kind of funny question.
All right, then. Carolyn's got a funny question. Are we up for the funny question?
Yes. Lori wrote in.
Morning, Lori.
My question today is about trees. Sounds funny, I know. Those are her words.
Okay.
Do trees have energetic memories for branches lost? I'm noticing squirrels reaching out as if to check a branch that had been missing for years is actually really there or not at all. It occurred to me that this is something like what people experience as phantom pains. I'm finding it fascinating as they paw at an area that used to have a branch.
No. I think that as far as I'm aware, trees do not have brains. I think that's the difference between us as humans, animals, those things that have a brain. Plants do have energy. They certainly do have tremendous energy, and you can feel the energy of the growth. Everything's energy. We started this show by my saying everything is energy, but no, I think you have to think: do they have a brain? Are they capable of thinking? They're capable of breathing. They're capable of growing. They're capable of spreading themselves and so on. But it is a natural phenomena of nature, as opposed to the tree's willingness to grow. One of my favorite books is the Faraway Tree. So if you want to dispute what I just said, by all means, read the Faraway Tree. It's such a magical thing to read. I read it when I was a kid. I bought it for my daughter, and I bought it for my granddaughter, my grandson, should I say. And we read stories from the Magic Faraway Tree. It's an amazing book. But thank you for the question. Al, how are we doing time here?
We're close to time. I was just going to say that. Yeah. Connie is clarifying her question from before.
Morning, Connie, again.
I would love you to read your bird story, she says. What I meant was, does Rosemary have a reading she did at Christmas time that was very moving or inspirational? So I think a conversation.
I was a member of my church for a very long time. I would sometimes take the services at church. I always liked the story of the three kings. I don't know, it just conjures up magical lands and so on. Let me think on it. We'll talk about it next week. Let me think on it and see if there is a particular story that yes?
Only because I've been rereading The Eagle and the Rose. The story with Doreen, who had come to you for a reading, but her neighbor lady had passed away.
You mean a consultation?
Consultations.
I don't know who she works for, but not for me much longer.
And I think it's because in your book she had said reading, and that's what I'm remembering. Okay. Anyway, she was at you for a consultation, but her neighbor lady had passed. And the neighbor lady came through on Doreen's consultation because She has such an important message for her family.
Do you know something? Hold on a minute, because we're at cross purposes now. I see where you're coming from. This lady's asking if there is an emotional reading.
We're not sure. I think it's consultation that she's talking about, but she usually reads.
Okay, we're at cross purposes, because when you think of a reading in Christmas, I'm thinking of church and readings from the Bible and stories from the Bible. So this is what I'll do. But I actually think this lady is talking of a reading in as much as that psychics give readings. I don't actually give readings. I give consultations, which is different. I connect with people and I chat to people. I talk with people. When you give somebody a reading, it just supposes to me that you're reading a person's aura, or you're reading the energy around the person, which I don't do. I have conversations with people. So, but I do know that people call me and say, I want a reading with you. And I don't actually refer to them as readings. I refer to them as consultations. So I've misunderstood completely. Some psychic I'm turning out to be. This is what I shall do. I shall think on that. And, you know, Christmas is coming. It's getting very close. So maybe next week, will that next week be the last time before Christmas?
Yes.
I think maybe one more before Christmas.
Yeah, one more before then. Yeah. So what I'll do, if I can, I'll get my mind together. The next 2 weeks, I will think of a consultation that I gave to someone, which was an emotional one, or particularly emotional, particularly moving, or particularly inspiring, or something like that. And I shall recount those stories to you. So over the next 2 weeks, I'll choose 2 particular stories, if I can, where you know, I was so inspired, and I'll choose them with Christmas in mind, bearing Christmas and the joy of giving and all the rest of it. I'll do that with them in mind. So that's something that you can all look forward to. Even if you can't join me live, you can still check in. I'd love you to please subscribe. We didn't have a chance. We've been so busy with everything this year. We didn't have a chance to have our competition, but we are going to have a competition, hopefully in the new year. You cannot join in the competition if you don't subscribe. You have to subscribe. So please subscribe. Tomorrow night, Al and I will be talking to an Olympian who she and her team won a silver medal in the World Olympics several years ago. And, you know, everything is attitude is about how we can change our attitude. Do we need to change our attitude? What sort of positive attitude do we need to have to, you know, to be more of who we can be, to be, you know, to achieve whatever it is we want. And this lady, this Olympian silver medalist, world silver medalist, is going to come on our show tomorrow. And she's going to talk to us about what she had to do and what her attitude was, and how she had to train her attitude into the point where she worked with a team and they achieved. I mean, you know, who in this world can say I'm a gold medalist, I'm a silver medalist, or a bronze medalist? Not many people can do that. World medal winner. So that is at 6 o'clock Standard Eastern Time. I don't know where it is around the rest of the world, but New York time, 6 in the evening. And you can sort of join us live. You can make comments or even ask questions. And that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So until I see you next week, or even tomorrow night, if you want to join us, don't forget, subscribe. Is there anything else I need to say? Email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. And until I see you again next week, please have a very, very, very blessed day. And now I've got to find that little white arrow. There it is. Have a very blessed day, everyone.